All right, Wednesday night chat number something or other from. I'm coming at you guys from sunny San Francisco. You can tell exactly how warm it is here by the fact that I'm wearing 4 layers indoors. Um,
That's funny because I'm in shorts and a t-shirt.
Dude, you know it was cold. Well, you're also way better insulated than me.
That's his polite way of saying I'm fat.
Let's get down to brass tacks
I am
here.
fat again.
But it's cold out there, man. I was looking at that and I was like, yes, I love this because I come from a place that's very warm in the summer. And so every time it's like 50 degrees and like wet out, I'm like, yeah, this is how you June. Anyway.
Brian,
This is how you June.
I spared you from my comment.
Okay, well, I appreciate that. So, tonight we're going to be looking at vigilance, specifically the sort of vigilance that's required to hang on to practices that you have discovered which take care of you. Because we are all beset at all times by a whole host of unfortunate advice. And the moment that you sort of take your eye off the prize, the moment you begin to become distracted, you're going to get the information like, yeah, you should really not do the things that have been making your life work and have been making you have an enjoyable experience. Just stop those and immediately start doing all the things that previously made you miserable. That's really going to be the thing that's going to improve your life right now. And that often gets framed as like, oh, you can take a break, or oh, you've earned a reward, or, you know, somehow being distracted is a reward. That's a frame that's available, right? It's very, and this is information that's just hyper available. So anytime you're not really attentive, you're going to be listening to it. So you have to maintain vigilance and just go, these are the things that I do because I know that they take care of me. I've set up the information streams to continuously remind myself that that is so. Now let's just keep doing it. So that's the idea. We got Casey. We got Dennis.
Hi.
I wanted to take this opportunity to put Casey on blast.
Ooh.
For establishing a regular practice of meditation.
Which is something that I needed to bring up today.
We can talk about vigilance.
Vigilant. Yeah, exactly. Am I going first? I guess I'll start.
Sure, do it.
I realized that this past weekend I didn't meditate for 2 days in a row. And then today is Wednesday. I have to check my app, but I'm pretty sure I meditated yesterday. But I for sure know I didn't do it today. I'm gonna be doing it after I'm off this phone call, just because. Go. But yeah, actually, exactly, right?
Like, sounds like you have an app to track the days that you haven't meditated.
I know.
That's good.
Yes. Oh yeah. So I guess I'll bring this up. There is a Headspace, but there is also another app called Insight Timer. So Insight Timer basically is the easiest way I can put it is a social network for people who do guided meditation. There are different people on there, and you can listen to their recordings. And you can sort by multiple different metrics, like most viewed, and there's different. Oh, and one thing that I do like it is you go to meditations and then you tell them how much time I have. I have 5 minutes. Okay, cool. There's a 5-minute meditation, or a 15-minute, or a 20-minute. It's all there. Just a matter of going and doing it. It's like the gym. The hardest part about going to the gym is just going to the gym. Once you're there and doing it, you can do it. In my instance, things are a little different because someone's trying to hurt me, but it's all good. It's all the same.
And the great part about meditation is you don't even have to go anywhere. You literally just pay attention to what's happening here already anyway.
Mm-hmm.
It's helpful if you have a little spot set aside. It's helpful if you have, if you can sit in a certain posture, but you don't have to. I meditate on the bus all the time.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's easier when you have been doing it for 16 years. There's definitely, a ramping up of skill that allows you to maintain a mind of meditation in a more busy context.
So you're saying that I cannot go and do this?
I'm saying that you shouldn't expect good results
Okay.
if that's your primary practice. It's a wonderful secondary practice just to see,
Okay.
like, okay, I'm gonna give it a shot. I'm gonna try to do some bus meditation. Now, how does this differ from meditation in my home, in a quiet environment where I can kind of control the level of sensory input that I'm getting, right? How
You don't have someone's little pill speaker thing blowing in your ear.
Hmm.
At
Yeah.
home.
Yeah. It's less Bluetooth speakers, less mumble rap. For me, at least. If mumble rap's your jam, maybe you meditate to mumble rap. I don't know. I wouldn't find it particularly relaxing because I would be involved in all sorts of lyrical critique.
Never mind, I'm not going to do my version of mumble rap.
There we go. So, yeah, it's great that you have a tool, as Dennis points out, right? You have a tool. You're setting up the infrastructure of accountability, right? You're making it possible for you to actually go back and inspect a record. This is what I did, right? And it's cool that you're exploring this sort of space of guided meditation apps, right? Because that can be really helpful, because the most common question that people have is, what am I supposed to be doing with that sort of introspective practice? That is an introductory practice. So I would recommend at least some fraction of your practice be unguided. You don't have to be particularly hung up on that, but it is something that you want to transition toward less structured in that respect, or rather, I should say, more self-structured, right? So you want to move to a place where you're actually generating the structure for your practice. But that can be a progressive thing over time, and if you find that helpful as you're getting your practice established, that's wonderful. And there are a lot of great tools out there. It's even, the last time I was really researching tools to assist with meditation practice was like 2012 or something like that. When the Android and iOS ecosystems were not nearly in such a deep state of development as they are now. There's literally an app for everything. There's 6 apps for everything. So there's going to be a lot of support out there. Of course, the recommendation is don't spend too much time trying to find exactly the right app. Find a serviceable app and spend most of your time actually practicing.
And if you find the wrong one, that's only another step closer to the right one.
Exactly. There you go. That's the frame. That's what we're talking about. So yeah. So you're having an experience of vigilance there. Excellent.
Actually, if I'm gonna forget if I don't mention it now, there were 2 other non-topic, off-topic things that I wanted to talk about that actually have to do with this show and all this stuff that we've been talking about. So, one of you two, please remind me at the end.
Okay. Have you written them down?
I can write them down.
That way you don't lose them.
Write them down. Bob.
My experience has been the amount of time that I can remember an idea seems to be about 5 seconds shorter than the amount of time that I think I can remember an idea.
Yeah.
About the average.
Yeah, it's literally right as the idea closes the door and exits my mind forever. That's the moment where I'm like, what was that again? So,
Oh, good.
It's great. So, Dennis.
Yes, sir.
You're having an experience related to this sort of topic, I think.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess the big thing is like I pulled out my planner so I can actually look and kind of go over some notes to help with like that concept. Because hey, once again, tools. I just noticed like once we got back from Lost Coast, because right, we took a trip, we went out, I had a week away from work, a week away from any sort of like that sort of like business responsibility, and it was just like, yeah, I just got to do my thing, right? We only worried about like pack your bags, eat your food, walk, set up camp,
don't get washed into the ocean.
Sleep. It's a very simple rhythm. Yeah, don't let the ocean just wash you away. I think we might have talked about this 2 weeks ago, but the fact that it was like, oh, like I have to read this email, like just in case like my name might be in there. There might be something about it. Oh, I need to talk to a team, but like we need to make sure X or Y is involved. Like all of a sudden, like it was just so much more complicated. And I immediately let so much slip. Like I didn't work out the first week I was back. Well, actually, I guess that's not true. The first 2 days I was back, I went on hikes because I just missed the walking. But then after that, like I let it slip. Um, but as we talked about, we started tracking stuff. So I started tracking again how many calories I'm eating. Am I working out? I started trying to track that stuff again. And I was tracking it and I was like, man, what's going on? But I realized I focused in on days to work out and calories and completely neglected like a bunch of other stuff I was doing, like myself, like before we left, I was doing classes and other things. Like I had other things I was doing, and my brain let me go like, yeah, you count those 2 things. You're doing a great job. My brain totally let me forget about everything else that I was working because I forgot about, I guess, just this fact of modern society, how many things you have going on that you need to remember, you need to do, you need to work on. And it's like, holy cow. So I'm trying to get back into those other things now too. And I'm still just like, it almost feels like starting over again, right? Where you're just trying to like, you don't have a sculpture anymore. You have a rock and you're trying to rework on that rock into the sculpture of what your life was. And it's really shocking to me because we were only gone for a week, right? I was only off of it for a week and I just let so much fall away. Which I guess maybe we can talk about that is like, how do you find out what's actually important? Because I've realized that there were certain things I was worried about and concerned about and focusing on that, like I shouldn't expend energy on those anymore. But yeah, it was really shocking. Like one thing I did recently was I uninstalled people being able to message me from work. Like I had the work messenger app on my phone, set it so it won't notify me. So when I'm not at work, I don't get those notifications anymore. And coming back from Lost Coast, it was like, why did me before do this? Why did me before go like, yeah, I'll just let anyone message me all the time, even when I'm not on the clock and I'm not at work and I'm supposed to be de-stressing.
Do they ask you
So yeah.
questions?
Yeah, no, 100%. It's always work related.
I thought
So
maybe
it's
they
like,
wanted to see how you were doing.
oh no, that's what every other messenger app in the world is for. But yeah, so like I said, I'm trying to get back on track, and now I've got my workout schedule again. I've got all these other things, but I realized like, oh yeah, I need to step back, look at the bigger picture, try and see all of those pieces of the plots. And the planner was really big on that because I had stuff in my monthly calendar that wasn't in the week to week yet. And it was like, oh yeah, reference the monthly, start plugging those things into the weekly. Because I was just like, man, my planner's empty. Anywho, yeah, so it's just a lot of that, a lot of this, like I let so much stuff drop, and I was like, holy cow. But also, yeah, I feel a lot of people, anyone who's listening, anyone who's watching, anyone living that modern life, they're probably juggling a lot more than they realize. And it's not until you stop juggling, then you have to start again. You're like, holy cow, how do you juggle all of these pieces?
Yeah, how do you get all these things back in the air?
Yeah.
It's a changing context like that can be really helpful because it gives you a really strong indication of what you've sort of pushed down into your habitual experience and what things still are requiring a pretty active maintenance component. So there's this, with all practices, if you do them for long enough, they just become completely habitual. They're part of the ritual, and you just drop right back into them.
Yeah.
But there's always a window of time between starting a practice and achieving that sort of habitual place where it takes a lot of energy to actively maintain it. And it's really useful, I think, to see like what things actually fall away easy and what things are hard to ramp back up, because that gives you an indication, something that you can ramp back up really quickly. All right, cool. This is probably on that next level. Right? Something that you're really having a difficulty getting started with. Okay, maybe this needs a little bit more attention. Or maybe I need to, open up a little bit of space in my life to give this more energy to try to start pushing this into just being a thing that I do. And that is one sort of marker to be on the lookout for, where if something just becomes the thing you do, then you're set on that. Right? When the conversation stops because whatever meme is firing off that would subvert that, it just has not gotten a reward in so long that it's given up. Right? So eventually it just becomes, no, this is the thing that I do. That's me folding my clothes before I take a shower. Right? Yeah. It's just every time. And it's been every time for like 6 years. And so at this point, it's just like there's a little like maybe not, and it's like no, not this time. It is every time. It always happens, and it's like, oh yeah, that's right. It's just gone, right? Doing laundry every Wednesday and Sunday. Ooh, the Lost Coast put a little bit of a dent in that, right? That wasn't there yet, which I suspected, but it's like I've gotten a lot of laundry done, but I'm not at the bottom. Although it's Wednesday,
so a lot of laundry.
It's Wednesday, so tonight is the opportunity. Right, I've got one load left to do. I've got an empty hamper over here. I'm excited. I just realized, like, this is gonna happen again, and we're gonna get back on the train. But yeah, just having that change of context gives you a lot of information about where different facets of your life are, and that can be really valuable just to know where you need to allocate your resources, where you need to put in some focus to get something really driven down into your habitual experience that's just part of your volitional experience. I've been making that distinction a fair bit, I think, in my videos, but I don't know if I've talked about that with you guys on here. Habitual versus volitional.
I don't think so.
So your volitional experience is what you choose when you're paying attention.
Okay.
Right? Your habitual experience is what arises when you're not paying attention.
Okay.
Right? So if you do something volitionally for long enough, it gets pushed down into your habitual experience. So it just keeps happening even when you're not paying attention. Right? So for me, it's like I used to get a lot of flack because I would like scowl at people. And it wasn't that I was having any relationship with the person. It's just that I would be lost somewhere in my head, staring off into space. And then another human being would intersect my gaze. And they go, oh, wow, he must be really mad at me. And I'm like, no, I don't even know that you exist. I'm just lost in thought, right? And so when I was this happened to me just enough freaking times that I was about 17, I just decided, okay, I'm just going to train myself so that when I begin to go off into the reaches of my mind, I will just put a smile on my face so that I'm just smiling. I'm like, and I just look like I'm happy. And then people will project a positive relationship onto me instead of a negative relationship. Because it's just a more pleasant life experience, right? And now I find myself like really automatically doing that. And the other thing was like trying to hold eye contact with people and smile more just when I see people in the world, because I'm not a particularly social person, and making eye contact with people was not something I was inclined to. I'm super shy, right? And I was just walking around today and just noticed several times where it's just I saw somebody and I wasn't paying attention. I was thinking about something, and when I realized like that I was looking at somebody, immediately just eye contact, smile. That has become really, really habitual that I don't have to think about it. Right. So that's an example of that.
Yeah. So that's something specifically we have talked about, that fact of like those base things you do. Specifically, you talked about the smiling one of that. Like if you just can make that a part of things, like that's something you can habitually do. And then it also helps other people, because if someone sees you smiling, you might just, in fact, give them a good feel. And that requires so little effort to...
But it eventually requires no effort, and that's the point. If something... I've lost my focus on my camera. Camera?
I'm sorry. Oh.
Camera? I have no idea how to fix that. But if something becomes a habit, you no longer have to put energy into making it happen. It's part of your equilibrium. And that's a really important fact, because all of these practices that we're doing to be happy human beings take work, and they do require vigilance. And you can actually automate a fair amount of that with enough practice and enough effort. You can sort of set up protocols inside of your brain that are just scanning around, looking for sources of bad information and tagging them up, so that when you encounter them, it's just like, oh yeah, I know who that is. That's Fred, right? Fred doesn't have anything good to say. Is that right, Casey?
Mine's name is Bob Chad.
Bob Chad. Okay. I'm glad that
I hate both those names equally. So
I'm glad we've settled on a name for that particular experience that you were having. So,
Bob Chad.
and that's, something that I try to harp on quite a lot is that if you encounter a pattern inside of your own mind, you have to give it a name of some sort, because once it's got a name, all of your pattern recognition hardware in your brain can go to work for you, going, oh, this is that thing you named right here. And you go, oh, and then you can think about those patterns of cognitions as patterns of cognitions rather than just being 100% persuaded by them because they're thoughts that are in your head. And that's the reason we need so much vigilance, is that every single thought in your mind is persuasive. Because it's in your mind. Doesn't matter that it didn't arise for anything that suits your purposes, that serves your well-being. Doesn't matter if it's just some clunky thought that's been around with the human race for the last 500,000 years and it's just been passed from person to person to person to person to person and causes suffering for all of us. It's in your mind. It's going to be persuasive. So you're going to be super vigilant and spot those and identify them as what they are, not something that's coming from you to serve your well-being, but something that has been inflicted on you from without that is not working in your interests at all.
God, yeah, I think that's still such a big, important thing that a lot of people don't realize is like if you have a thought, it might not be like an actual valid thought. It could just be a thing you have, right? Like, and I feel like people really need to realize that just because an idea popped into your head doesn't mean it's a good one, doesn't mean you should give it a lot of like thought and value. But a lot of times people are just like, oh, that's what popped in my head. Now I'm just going to think about it and I'm going to let it just bounce around uncontrolled like a pinball and go, bah, 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 bah. That's like, bro, don't stop.
Yeah, just because it's in your head doesn't mean it has anything to do with you.
Yeah, it's
right? Could just be an accident of history. It's just been cruising along through the human race for millennia and it landed on you and it's not doing you any good. So just get it on out. And the getting it on out is actually a non-trivial sort of operation. It involves essentially starving it out by not paying attention to it, watching it arise and go, oh, hi there. There you are, Bob Chad. Yep. And there you go. Goodbye. I'm the whole time I'm just eye on the prize here. I'm focused on my well-being. Get out of here. And letting it go and not being upset that it is there. That's the other side of the trap, right? It either wants you to believe in it or it wants you to react to it, because both of those feed it. So if you're angry that this thought lives in your mind, that thought's coming back again and again and again. If it's just a thing that's happening and you have no connection to it at all, it's like, oh, yep, that's arising. And then it goes away,
Yeah, that's interesting. I had a couple of those thoughts this past a couple of weeks, actually. I think I mentioned it last week or the weekend before. I'm interviewing at different companies. Supposedly, allegedly, this is the truth. For legal reasons. What?
I was wondering why.
Yeah.
Why we were now out into the hypotheticals.
Yeah, I
may be as vague as you need to be.
Yeah. So anyway, while I'm getting ready for my supposed computer science exam, I started having these thoughts. I'm like, oh, you're going to fail this exam every time you take it for all the different people. And I'm like, wow, well, that sucks. Okay, I'm just going to keep working harder. And then a little after that, I got the thought of, you should be working harder. I'm sure there's someone else out there that's working harder than you right now. And I just felt like Mike Tyson at like 4 a.m. going over data structures and algorithms. Mike Tyson used to run in the middle of the night because he thought Mike Tyson thought that his people who he's going to fight are sleeping, and if I'm working while they're sleeping, that means I'm doing more work than them.
I don't know that Mike Tyson is the world's foremost font of wisdom, but I get you.
No,
I get where you're coming
but
from.
okay, I mean, yeah.
It's
It
like
takes
Mike, you gotta sleep at some point though, bro.
okay. At some point in some level, you got to respect the man for his discipline. It's not his discipline in whatever. It's not his fault that he chose a career or chose a path that he's going to end up getting punched in the head and have CTE.
That is true. So anyway, carry on. So you're having all these thoughts.
So yeah, I'm having all these thoughts that I'm thinking that I'm not.
Through.
Yeah, powering through. What did I do? I basically was like, I'm doing work. I'm practicing every night, and I just kind of acknowledge the fact that this thing is there. It's telling me these things to do, and I just have to know it's there and then let it go because that's not true, and just talk myself off the edge. Because honestly, that's what it is. It's an edge. You're gonna spiral down if you just don't accept it. If you just accept it and just let it happen, and then just talk to yourself. Be like, yo, you are doing a lot for this computer science exam. Look at what you thought you knew before, and then look at what you know now. You've improved a lot. I just if I could and I think I've said this before. If I could treat computer science like jiu-jitsu, I would be okay because for some reason, 10 to 15 years for a black belt doesn't bother me, but earning X amount of dollars does, and not doing it right now does bother me. So,
yeah, it's interesting. Where do you get the information that you should be able to master computer science any faster than one can master jujitsu? Why? Yeah, well, I mean, we've talked about boot camps about a million times. There are people who tell you can learn Spanish in a weekend. They're wrong.
Yeah, you can learn how, and I think we were talking about this morning, right? Like, I'm not going to say what I said. Let's just leave it at that. But basically, the comparison I made was pretty good. And, yeah. So, I actually lost my train of thought on that one. So,
well, we can just observe that it takes an awful lot of self-understanding to be in a position to actually offer a counter narrative to that. Yeah. When that information is firing, right, it's only going to catch you once. And like you said, you're on the downward spiral, right? Yeah. You really are on the edge of this very steep incline, if not a cliff.
Yeah.
Right. And if you slip up for just a moment, woo, there you go. You're just rolling down. And that's just the reality of it. That's the life that we lead. And you have to have that self-knowledge so that you have the counter narrative at the ready, right? You know what, actually, no, I can look back to here and see where I am now, and I've made a tremendous amount of progress. I know that I've worked this hard. I know that I've learned these things. I know that I've grown in these ways. So I know that you're offering me bogus information, and that the only reason that you have to lie to me inside my own head is to fulfill some agenda that doesn't align with mine. So I'm out. Not interested, not attending to you. Going to go right back to the things that I know take care of me, right? The things that I want to work on and improve in my life.
Yep. Yeah, it's been hard. I've been putting myself through a lot of stress, unnecessary, bro. We've talked about it, but I think about the times of when I was working in the lab and I wasn't happy. Were there good moments in the lab? Yes. And I think about the times, at work. I have bad times at work, and in all my positions as a quote unquote engineer. But there are also great days where I'm like, I can think back of like all the effort I put into what I'm doing and the progress that I've made in the time that it took me. I took took a while to get here, and being self-taught and learning, making a lot of mistakes. It was hard, but yeah.
That's the only way we advance, though. You got to make mistakes.
Exactly.
And everything takes time.
Yeah.
We live in such highly derived systems, right? We're so far away from the state of nature that it takes a tremendous amount of training to get up to speed in anything. And we have to allow ourselves the time for that. Even just the raw amount of time for our brains to grow the neural connections that are required to process the sorts of abstract, arcane information we're throwing at them, you know? You gotta be fair to yourself, and you gotta be kind to yourself, because anybody else who was going through what you're going through, if they came to you and said, how am I doing? You'd be like, yeah, man, you're really killing it. You're really working hard. Everybody's proud of you, but you can't tell yourself that because reasons.
Well, pretty much. It's yeah. It's not a good feeling. But I keep powering through it. Like, I grit my teeth like a goddamn wrestler, and I just power through the pain and just grit through. I'm like, okay, it only hurts for a little bit. I'll get through this. It's just tomorrow's a new day. I'll get up. I'll try to be 1% better every day.
And that's a key for all of this too, is that it only hurts for a little bit, right? When you are under siege like that, when you're really getting a lot of bogus information, that actually doesn't last usually for tremendously long if you can be present and recognize what's happening, right? If you can just, okay, I need to find some caretaking activities. I need to get myself stabilized right here. I just got to wait this out. You know, got a little bit of a cognitive storm going. That's fine. The energy dissipates real fast. Once you train yourself to really be aware of it, it's really intense for a while, and then it's like, oh, okay, that cleared up. It'll be back, right? It'll be back in a new guise with a new story, with a new load of bogus information, which serves the same purpose to undermine anything you're doing for yourself to take care. But for a little while, it's gonna be chill, right? And you can recollect, figure it out, get the practices loaded up, and then just get ready for the next ambush. But yeah, I think that about does it on Vigilance. You had some other stuff you wanted to talk about, Casey?
I wanted to bring up Anthony Bourdain.
Okay.
Yeah. So there are a handful of times that I've actually shed a tear when a human being dies.
I don't actually know who Anthony Bourdain is, so didn't he do something with food?
Yeah, and he's a blue belt in jiu-jitsu.
World famous chef, traveler, and jiu-jitsuer.
And yes, okay. blue belt in jiu-jitsu under Ralph Gracie. No, Renzo Gracie. My bad.
Gracie.
Gracie. There is this. Actually, he was in San Francisco a lot, training under Kurt Osiander, which is pretty cool. But wherever he got to travel, he always looked for a gym, always. And I thought that was pretty cool. But yeah, so I got back from London, and we land. It's 3:30. Ramen turns on her phone, and immediately says, "Anthony Bourdain dies. Is dead." And I'm like, "What the fuck? Like, what did he do now? He didn't make it out of Lebanon, because he ended up going to Lebanon one time, or one country. I forget out the country out there that was under Arab Spring."
Casey, yeah, but I gotta ask, how does this relate?
How does this relate? He committed suicide.
Okay, there we go.
And he committed suicide, and just I was legitimately sad that day. Like, he touched a lot of people. He's an important human being to me, but he also he committed suicide, and I'm surprised that there were a bit of people that did talk about it, but I'm surprised we didn't bring it up here until now.
I think actually it was like 2 weeks ago. It might have been before we started the chat. I actually talked with Brian about it a little bit, but it was one of the big things, like the point that I took away from it, because it was right after we got back from Lost Coast. We got to Lost Coast, and then that's when I saw the news. But it was for me, the big thing was I was so heartbroken about it, but then I realized it made me feel more human and more normal, because Anthony Bourdain was at the top of his career. Everything was going great. He was living the freaking dream, and it still happened. And so it made me feel way better about my feelings, in that sense of I feel a better connection with my depressive episodes and things like that, because it was you can't, it's not just a be stronger or be happy and then it won't happen. It's and if it can happen to someone who everything is going great and they're in a pretty freaking great place. It makes it feel more real and just like a thing that happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it highlights the
I
fact
don't think we
that,
talked about it on the chat before, but
I think it highlights the fact that success and happiness are not strongly correlated.
yeah.
And wealth and happiness are not strongly correlated.
Brian,
Right?
how many times have I told you I feel like I was a much happier, less stressed person when I had less money.
Yeah.
Yeah, right?
And let me tell you, as a person who has almost no monies, right, you can't find somebody with a lower level of stress and a higher level of happiness than this guy, right?
Yeah.
I get to the point, I get like 2 weeks into the month, and I'm like, I've got all the monies. Did it? Well, crap, I don't want to get any more money. Huh. I guess I'll just enjoy all this free time and discretion as to what I do with my life. I don't know.
While I'm at work at 9 o'clock in the morning, I see Brian playing PUBG, and I'm like, I want to play PUBG.
Yeah.
Ugh.
First off, the way that we know that's inaccurate is that you've created the myth that I'm awake at 9 o'clock in the morning, and that's not true.
You haven't gotten to bed yet.
Today I woke up at 9 a.m., but that was a very special occasion because I was going to meet with a client at 10 a.m., which is an extreme rarity for a very good client who had challenging scheduling needs. Yeah, you know, I've known a lot of really successful people, and I haven't noticed that they're any happier than the people who a lot of people would frame as less successful. I'm not an extremist. You need a certain amount to be in a position to begin practicing being a happy human being. A very well-trained person can probably be happy at very close to bare subsistence, especially if you read the mystical literature. Like, there's a lot of folks like living in caves and doing weird stuff like that who seem to have been quite content with things, right? But for the average person, you need to have, food, clothing, and shelter under control, right? You need to be able to reliably go to a place to acquire resources, and that place needs to be, not particularly miserable and not leave you so drained that you can't engage substantively in the art of living in your free time. But once you get there, once you reach that threshold, which is actually a lot easier than people think in our society, it's adding to the income doesn't necessarily correlate very strongly with increase in happiness and well-being. So, it's a thing to keep in mind. When you hear the voice in your head saying, if you just had this advancement in your career, if you were just at this stage, if you just had these things, then you would be happy. Like, that voice doesn't have an incentive to leave you alone just because you finally accomplished all the things that it laid out for you. It can just make up new things and keep the game running. And that's, you see people really, having tremendous success and really suffering intensely. And it's also, when I was a young fellow, somebody told me, apropos of what I can't actually remember, just never assume you know what's going on inside of somebody else's mind. Somebody could be right on the edge and appear completely normal, and you'll never know until something happens. And that for me is a good enough motivator to just be nice to people, right? Mm-hmm. You don't know how many people you're pulling back from the edge if you're just walking around being kind, right?
Yep.
And you don't know who you're knocking over the edge if you're walking around being an ass. So,
did I ever tell you about what happened on the 38R on the way home one day?
Nah.
Quick little story. Usually not quick to me, but it is what it is. I was on my way home from a class. I forget, there was some data analytics class at some school, and I was sitting on the bus, and I'm just whatever, watching a video, and then all of a sudden I see this argument break out between this small little girl. She was an adult, but she was small. She was a small woman, and this larger man. The man was trying to get there was a 2-seater. The woman was sitting on the left, the guy was sitting on the right, and the guy tried to get out of the bus, but for some reason something happened, and the guy said something. The woman grabbed the guy's bottle of some kind and threw it down the bus, and immediately the man got in that girl's face and scared her out of her mind. And I forgot the point of the story. There was a point. I'm sorry. Shoot.
Well, so if I can fill in the point here, right? You don't know what's going on in somebody else's head.
There we go.
Right? Yeah. So you don't want to escalate anything.
Yeah, exactly. Sorry.
Right? It's never worth it to be. It's especially never worth it to be like aggressive.
Yeah.
Right. Or to create or escalate conflicts, because that's a good way to get yourself into a really nasty situation, because there's somebody out there who's, a moment away from violence that you could get yourself mixed in with. But
yeah,
beyond that, across every domain of human experience, every way that a person can be in an off balance or unwell state can be happening silently behind a mask of normalcy.
Mm-hmm.
Right? People are really good at hiding their interior state. So they can seem perfectly normal, perfectly happy, perfectly content, and really be suffering some intense experiences. And you can be sure not to contribute to that if you're just kind to them. And if you needed a reason to be kind, which you shouldn't need a reason to be kind, it's just more pleasant, right? That should be reason enough that it's just a better, more pleasant way to be a human being. But if you needed an external validation for that, it's the avoiding being the person who tips somebody over the edge and potentially being the person who pulls somebody back from the edge, right? That's a good human being to be.
Yeah. Sorry. So basically what ends up happening is the guy gets in her face. She either reacts in an aggressive manner back. The bottle, I see the bottle, she throws the bottle in my direction. I see it roll by me without even thinking about it. Pick it up, and I'm in my head. I'm like, why do I have the bottle in my hand? My mouth starts going, hey man, chill out, relax. You don't gotta get all crazy. It's the holidays. Chill out. What are you doing? And my brain's like, this man probably has a knife, and you're gonna have to jujitsu him on the bus. This is not a good thing. You can't jujitsu knives or other big weapons. So this is bad.
You heard it here first, folks. You can't jujitsu knives.
Yeah.
You can't do it.
Yeah.
Never thought I'd hear that from Casey.
You can jujitsu guns, though. No, you can't. Don't do it.
For a very limited set of ranges, you can jujitsu guns from 2 feet. And guns can shoot for significantly further. All right, yes. We're pretty far afield.
Sorry. Now, before I know what happened, I get in the guy's way. Hey man, take it easy. Disarm the guy for some reason. He's listening to me, and he walks off. He walks off the bus. Everyone is just like, "Yeah, man, that was a good job." And I'm like, "I don't know what I did. Oh my god!" But yeah, basically that was. I told him, and then I said to him that I'm like, you don't know, maybe she's having a shit day. Maybe she's not, she's not feeling well. You don't know what's going on. Don't worry. Relax. It's all right. Totally disarmed him, and he walked away. End the story.
Let's get the heck out of here.
Well, there's your end of story. Just be nice to people.
Yeah, just be nice to people. It's cool.
Just be nice.
It's okay. And be on your guard for bogus information inside of your head. Just because it's in here doesn't mean it's true. Mm-hmm. Don't believe it. Stick to what you know. Stick to the things that take care of you. And that's it. We're out.